CoastTV News First Alert Meteorologist Chris Mastrobuono here with an update on Hurricane Erin as it continues to churn in the Atlantic. And we are going to feel the impacts tomorrow, primarily along the coast in the form of some really strong winds and some tidal flooding issues as we continue to see that persistent northeasterly flow. Taking a live look into Ocean City, some of the beachgoers there not venturing that far off into the water there. You could see many of the folks just kind of wetting their feet there, going up to their ankles, maybe their kneecaps, but it's a warm, muggy afternoon out there. We're seeing some breaks in the clouds and temperatures in the upper 70s to lower 80s. So folks doing all they can to kind of salvage the day, especially if you're on vacation down here and it's kind of a rough 2 days with folks. With officials telling everybody to stay out of the water. 78 degrees right there in Ocean City, 75-degree dew point. So we're quite muggy. We see a warm front stationed right over the peninsula, and on the other side of that front, it's a bit cloudier. We're seeing some breaks in the clouds to the south, very humid air mass as we're kind of sandwiched between Erin to the south. We have the warm front over the area, and then there's a cold front to the west. And there's a look at Erin, looking pretty healthy at this hour. Just really got shredded apart yesterday with some wind shear, basically weakened the storm a bit. You know, with these major hurricanes, these long life hurricanes, they oftentimes go through weakening points, re-strengthening points. They go through eye roll replacement cycles. We had some wind shear that kind of eroded the northwest portion of the storm, but looking really healthy right now at this hour. You can see on the visible satellite the eye beginning to form once again. That's a sign that the storm is re-intensifying, and we are on the cusp of seeing a Category 3 hurricane as of the latest advisory. We're really just a mile per hour shy of Category 3 status. So this is pretty much on its way to being a Category 3 hurricane once again. You can see we're seeing more of a northerly movement at this hour, 13 miles an hour. So not moving all that terribly quick, but wind sustained 110 miles an hour, gusts upwards of 130, and the millibars pressure is 941. So that will drop a little bit here as this storm continues to intensify. But the other story is we've been telling you about, as this storm pushes northward, the wind field is going to begin to expand. So the hurricane force winds are going to begin to expand, as well as the tropical storm force winds as this storm continues to lift to the north. Now, this is the latest from the National Hurricane Center. Latest advisory has this going back to a Category 3 hurricane. As it continues to make that northerly push, then it will start to make that northeasterly push and curve out to sea. As we see this storm continue lifting to the north, you can see the tropical storm warnings along the Carolinas, as well as the southern portion of the Delmarva Peninsula. Most of the tropical storm warnings we have in effect here on Delmarva are primarily for the coastal waters of the peninsula, as we're dealing with those winds upwards of 40 to 50 miles an hour. And then you can see the system is going to really race off to the northeast as we go into the day on Friday and then Saturday, and then the system will be turning extra tropical as we go into the weekend. So there's the wind field. We've been telling you about that over the last few days, how the wind field is going to be expanding as the system lifts northward. So what you see, the red there, represents hurricane force winds. Those extend out some 80 to 100 miles, and then you have the tropical storm force winds. So those winds are going to be grazing the Carolinas and then the Delmarva coast here over the next 24 to 36 hours. So really what we could expect here, the center of that storm is going to be 300-400 miles off our coast. So just kind of give you a perspective of how large the storm is. The center of the storm, where you get your powerful winds and heavy rain, is going to be 300-400 miles off the coast, but it's still going to be producing upwards of 8 to 14 foot storm surge, waves, as well as high winds as we go into the day on Thursday through Thursday evening, with those winds gusting upwards of 40 to 45 miles an hour. And that's going to lead to some tidal flooding issues, as well as continued beach erosion. Now, currently we have, as I mentioned, that tropical storm warning. Now, that's a little bit kind of tricky because it's primarily for the coastal waters, Cape Henlopen through Rehoboth Beach, down into Ocean View and Fenwick Island. And we also have a newly issued coastal flood warning, and that is primarily for coastal areas as well as those back bays, and that's primarily for the threat of coastal flooding, for the fact that we're going to have strong northeasterly push and all that water being pushed along the coast, as well as the high wave action we're going to be seeing. Waves upwards of 8 to 14 feet. Not expecting much in the way of rain from this. I mean, we may get an isolated shower tomorrow, but that coastal flood warning is primarily for the tidal issues, and you can see that tropical storm warning primarily for the coastal waters extending from Ocean City, pretty much the whole Delmarva coastline. You also have that coastal flood watch in effect for Accomack and as well as Worcester counties, and that goes through about 2 o'clock on Friday. Current wave heights, we've been talking wave heights today, anywhere between about 5 to as high as